I should really be by the ocean to talk to you about my next book, which is Richard Powers' Playground, only because that's very much about the oceans, and it might have been a great setting. I am on the Murrumbidgee, New South Wales, so we are in a little piece of paradise, which we should do our utmost to preserve. Which is what Powers is writing about. Now in his last two books, Overstory, the focus was very much on trees and trying to save land life with trees being his focus. And then Bewilderment, which was looking at, if you're going to look up to as many billionaires and travelling minds do, look to life on other planets, shouldn't this be making us look at our own planet and saying, why there? In the name of all that is holy, can we not keep this one? Look after it a bit better. And his third, I'm reading them only as a series in that they follow each other they've come consecutively. And Powers has always written around the environment and around AI technologies, has an equal fascination with both. This next one, Playground, looks mostly at the ocean. So we are obviously going to be asked to look at the state of our oceans, and one of the ways of getting you interested in the ocean is to make you love it, and we are made to love it. Interestingly, when I finished Playground, it brought to mind a 1998 novel that Powers wrote, which was called Gain, which was about the effects of progress and the effects of progress in inverted commas, which we're beginning to see now, sort of the corporate life versus when that's pitted against the individual. We have a company that produces, we go from the origins of a company producing soap and candles to chemicals, and then we get the story of what not just environmental but the detrimental effect to the human can be. And it's that narrative of production at no matter what cost. In Playground, we're introduced to the ocean, and it is a delight on a sentence level. He regales our senses with his sentences. We're introduced, immersed in the oceans with Evie Beaulieu, who is a Canadian, kind of larger than life. You feel she's been brought up to stand her ground, sort of intelligent, inventive, pioneering father gets her diving very early, using those early diving equipment. And we're in the 70s, so we've got those years that he covers between the 70s and 90s when ocean exploration was really beginning to take off. And this is Evie's whole reason for existing. And she is our conduit, if you like, to all the things that are discovered and all the joys and all the things she notices in the ocean, and how all the sea life behaves. And there are two other characters that we follow at the same time. We've got Todd and Rafi, and these are kind of school misfits, and they bond in high school, but not just because they've both got sort of parental issues. The one is neglected and the other suffers almost too much pressure from a parent, and it's not the way around you'd think it is. Rafi is black, Todd is white. Rafi comes from poverty, Todd is quite privileged, but they've both been kind of let down by their parents, and they bond over games. They're frightfully clever. And at this point in the narrative, you're beginning to look at them being vaguely stereotypical, which I found very interesting. It all comes kind of to a place at the end. But you follow these two boys who bond over games, and they're highly competitive. And I think they've always been trying to outdo each other. They start with chess, then they go on to that famous Go, and then Todd particularly becomes fascinated with computer games, whereas Rafi kind of becomes fascinated with wielding language. His whole freedom the way he could breathe in the world was through books. And I think this breathing idea is very interesting, because for Evie, the first time she goes into the water, she suddenly realizes you can breathe. And her world is transformed because she can be in this environment. And I think Rafi, it's the same. He can be in an environment and breathe in there because words let him do that. And Todd's breathability comes through immersing himself in AI and making it better. And at one point in the narrative, Rafi gives a little idea to Todd, and this becomes, they feed off each other, and it's quite important. Then there's a part of the narrative where these three, you have to read the book to, I'm not telling you the whole plot. Three of them end up on the island of Makatea, which is one of the French Polynesian islands, and a lot of our exploratory work of the oceans is done from here. And Makatea, as Powers tells us, had been absolutely ravaged by phosphate mining, and the people of the island have come to live slowly and live with the sea in a particular way. And Evie's taken off to visit, when she's doing her research, and even at the end of her life, she still dives. This is how she exists. And there is a project that the island has been told or asked, will they be a launch for a new seasteading program, which some billionaire wants to launch and use their island as a kind of a place to set up these and assemble these sort of sea dwellings or mini cities. And this ties in an awful lot with this we've read about this billionaires thinking that they can live on international waters and be taxed by no one, as if they were taxed by anybody in the first place, and live kind of outside of the constraints of nation and therefore of obligation to society. He pins everything to the page. At some point, Rafi and Todd and Evie find themselves in this space of island. Fascinatingly, it's called Playground, I think, because this is the name of Todd's. He invents this computer game, which has, as one of the ideas Rafi gives him, is to keep people interested in the game. You've got to kind of keep them playing, and that you give them credits for this, which is something we see game design doing now, which is why our children can't put the phones down, or get off their computers, is because all the games are designed that you get more rewards for the longer you stay in it. So all of this commenting is going on at the same time. But we are looking at play, and we're looking at, yes, even fish can dance when nobody's looking. But we are also, I think, at the same time looking at this competitiveness. When does a game stop being a game? And there's this kind of, when is the ludique or the fun part of the game gone, and when is it just competition and winning it no matter what the cost? And this goes back to the 1998 novel. It's in all the other novels. It's cost and our duty of care to the trees, to fauna, and then to the oceans. At the end of this novel, I sort of said, oh gosh, I'm going to have to read part of that again. There's a part where the story kind of seems to bifurcate, and you're sort of saying, is this like a game itself? Yeah, I'm choosing to go this way or this way with the story. Which part of it is story? Because AI, you find that part of the story is actually being told to an AI intelligence, which Todd has been working on. So you don't know who's telling what part of the story, which also, for me, explained a little bit why my stereotypes seemed to have been quite... that seemed to be something when I looked at the characters. It was like, are they quite real? So you're all the time he's messing with your head. What's a game? Is his whole book a game? But it's not, because that's not a game. Looking at the oceans and saying, we've really got to do something about this. We have to preserve them because they are magnificent, and every living thing is magnificent. Absolutely, it's one of those rare novels that not only are you hooked on every sentence, it's gold, but you are also, at least I was, when I got to the end of it, part of my brain was going, what was that? I have to do that again. And part of my brain was going, I have to read this whole book all over again. An absolute, I say masterpiece, but it was a journey like no other. worth it. A million times worth it. That's it. See you next time.